Will the New Orleans Saints move on from star running back Alvin Kamara? And also, will a second-year player be the answer for the New Orleans Saints defense at slot corner? We got that coming up for you right here on the Sleeper Saints podcast. What's going on? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. Hope you're having a good one. And thank you so much for stumbling across the Sleeper Saints podcast, a podcast that's geared towards your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. And we're going to be talking about those two topics here. I ask that you hit the like and subscribe button to help the channel to grow. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk a little bit about Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara has been a topic of conversation throughout this entire offseason. You have Saints fans wondering what is going to happen with Alvin Kamara, especially since we heard General Manager Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore not commit to the veteran running back. I think they use words like, we got to find a place for him. How does he fit in the offense? And I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous when you think about it, because I mentioned it before. It's not like Alvin Kamara is going to a new scheme, right? It's not like one of those situations where Alvin Kamara doesn't understand Kellen Moore. He was on the team last season. It just seems to me that the New Orleans Saints don't know necessarily how they want to handle the Alvin Kamara situation, but they're going to have to figure this thing out. Now, it is June the 1st, if you're watching this, right? But as we know, this is when teams start to kind of trade guys away, maybe cut guys, because, it's June 1st. And we see teams like the Giants. They went after Odell Beckham Jr. We see that these other teams, they are trying to get guys off the books. So the New Orleans Saints in their Alvin Kamara situation leads us to this point, because people are wondering what's going to happen. Now, I heard this rumor about the New Orleans Saints saving $14 million if they were to move on from Alvin Kamara, right? I just want to say that that's totally false, all right? The New Orleans Saints are not going to save $14 million in 2026 if they were to move on from Alvin Kamara. But I do have the graph right here. I'm about to pull up on the screen here. And we're going to talk a little bit about Alvin Kamara and keeping Alvin Kamara and why that might be beneficial to the Saints, right? You look at his cap hit, right? If the New Orleans Saints were to keep Alvin Kamara, it would be $10.4 million. Round off to 10.5. If they were to cut him, they would lose $10 million and save $376,000. So to me, the best case scenario is for the New Orleans Saints to try to find a way to keep Alvin Kamara, because $376,000 might look nice in our bank account, right? But when we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that is the New Orleans Saints, I mean, you're not really saving anything there. And we all know that Alvin Kamara is worth more than $10 million. And I know some people feel like Alvin Kamara may not be the same player that he once was. Some people feel like maybe Alvin Kamara is washed. But I do not believe that Alvin Kamara is washed. I think that a lot of the issues that plagued Alvin Kamara and why he hasn't been as successful as a running back has been the offensive line. It has been the offensive line and the way that the Saints have been utilizing him over the last couple of years. So I'm not going to just say that Alvin Kamara is washed, and I don't buy into that whole narrative. If you become 30 years old, all of a sudden, like, you just don't know how to play football anymore and you don't have it anymore. The New Orleans Saints would benefit more having Alvin Kamara on the roster than letting him go. Alvin Kamara is one of those players that would understand the New Orleans Saints using Travis Etienne as their featured back. The New Orleans Saints signed Travis Etienne in free agency. Him coming over from the Jaguars, had a really good season, 3,000-yard seasons in his career. Alvin wouldn't have an issue with sharing the backfield with Travis Etienne. I don't understand why the New Orleans Saints are making it seem like they can't have a conversation where Alvin Kamara wouldn't understand that they're trying to go younger and they want to get a younger guy there. Alvin Kamara isn't one of those players that cares about personal accolades or looking at, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing. And of course, he wants to be an asset to the team, of course, right? What player doesn't? But at the end of the day, if you go to Alvin Kamara and say, we want to have Travis Etienne, we want him to share the backfield with you, he's going to take the majority of the snaps, I guarantee you Alvin Kamara would not care. This is the same guy who had 950 yards a couple of seasons ago and had an opportunity to play in the last game of the season to get his first 1,000-yard season of his career, and he decided not to do it because he didn't want to risk injury even further. He was dealing with, I believe, a growing injury, and he decided not to go out there. So he could have easily just been like, man, I need those 1,000 yards. But that just shows you the type of player and the type of character that Alvin Kamara has. I often say that Alvin Kamara strikes me as a guy that looks at football as, you know, what he does is not who he is, so to speak. So I just think that the New Orleans Saints are just prolonging this process. If you don't want Alvin Kamara to be on your team, maybe he casts as a shadow that you feel like would be too big and maybe it would completely trump the running back room. I don't know, but they're going to have to figure it out because Alvin Kamara is not going to give the New Orleans Saints ammunition for any reason for any Saints fan to look at him as the bad guy. It probably would work if the New Orleans Saints could do that, but Alvin Kamara is not giving them that. Now, cutting Alvin Kamara, we already have come to the conclusion that's not a good idea, right? So what would be the next option? Well, the Saints could possibly trade Alvin Kamara. So you have a couple teams out here that may need the services of an Alvin Kamara. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the whole Josh Jacobs situation out there in Green Bay. That could be a good landing spot for him if Josh Jacobs need to miss some time. Maybe the Minnesota Vikings, he can fall up in there somewhere. Or so many other teams. So it's not like Alvin Kamara can't find a home somewhere. And it's not like teams wouldn't reach out to the Saints to see if they could acquire Alvin Kamara. But I'm pretty sure if the Saints were to trade Alvin, they wouldn't want to just send him anywhere. The Saints, historically, they haven't worked like that. Like you look at trades that go back as far as Jimmy Graham, the Jimmy Graham trade for Max Unger. Jimmy Graham went to the Seattle Seahawks when the Seattle Seahawks were one of the most red hot teams in the NFC, right? You think about Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed got traded to the Seattle Seahawks, ironically, and they won a Super Bowl last year, and he was a part of that. So the Saints, they tried to look out for the players, all the while try to receive some type of compensation. So I don't look at Alvin Kamara going to another team as a death sentence for his career, especially if the New Orleans Saints can get some type of compensation for it if you're not going to use Alvin in any way. If you just feel like Travis Etienne is your guy and you want to go with the younger guys, then I think that would be the best case scenario for Alvin Kamara. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to figure this thing out. I mean, we know that Alvin Kamara doesn't really take part in OTAs. That's never really been his thing. He decides to work out off campus and try to make sure that he's in the best shape possible with his strength and conditioning team and his personal trainers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as we get closer to some of these things that are mandatory, you don't want to just be dealing with this thing and have the media always asking questions, what's going to happen with Alvin, trying to read the pulse of Alvin, trying to read the pulse of the organization. They just need to figure this thing out. If you want Alvin on your team, then roll with Alvin. I think it would be a good idea. I don't think that you'll have to worry about anybody being upset and jealous, and you don't have to worry about like that classic Adrian Peterson debt stare that he that he gave to Sean Payton back in 2017 because he wasn't getting carries. I just think that Alvin Kamara would be okay with Travis Etienne being a feature back and being that complimentary back, and those two being that 1-2 punch that the New Orleans Saints need, because the running game needs to step up. They need to step up and they need to make things happen. Like these young running backs, they have got to show something this season. This offensive line has got to get it together. There's a lot of pressure that is on Tyler Shuck, justifiably so. if you are a franchise quarterback or you aspire to be a franchise quarterback, that just comes with the territory. But you cannot just put all of your hopes and dreams in Tyler Shuck and just hope that he brings you to the promised land. Most teams have something that actually accompanies great players in order for them to reach the ultimate goal, whether it's the Saints going to the playoffs, winning the division, or dare I say, make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Regardless, you're going to need a team around Tyler Shuck to make his job and his life much easier. So if you can get this offensive line fixed, it seemed like you have your two anchors on the end. Left tackle Calvin Banks going into his second season. Talese Fuaga, right tackle going into his third season. You got David Edwards, who you acquired in free agency. He's a guy that is going to give you stability at the guard position, something that the Saints haven't had in a long time. Hopefully, Eric McCoy can win the battle of attrition this season. And, Cesar Ruiz, it seems like, he's really taking it serious, as far as his football life on the offensive line. He understands this is do or die. You got some young, hungry offensive linemen waiting in the wings that are willing to compete against him. So he's going to have to step it up. But all in all, if the running game can get involved and Tyler Shuck can get some level of chemistry with these new wide receivers, these new weapons that he have around him, along with some guys that were there last season, then I think the Saints can have a really potent offense. But I think the Saints have got to deal with this Alvin Kamara situation sooner rather than later, because you don't want to go into training camp with these same storylines and it becoming a distraction. Well, let's go ahead and move on, man. Let's talk a little bit about Jonas Sanker. Now, Jonas Sanker is a player that I think a lot of Saints fans like. I like watching Jonas Sanker play. The first time I ever seen Jonas play was actually at the University of Virginia. I cover Coastal Carolina, a Sun Belt team, and they had to play against Virginia. And I can just remember Jonas Sanker in his final season at Virginia just being all over the field. I mean, he was just flying around, man. It was just absolutely insane. And he stood out. And last season, we know that the Saints drafted Jonas Sanker in the third round, and he was thrust into the lineup. He wasn't supposed to be a starter, but he was able to play in 16 games last season, had 80 tackles, 40 solo, 2 interceptions, 1 pass deflection, and 1 fumble recovery. I mean, he pitched in a major way. And we mentioned he wasn't supposed to be in that spot. Julian Blackmon, who the Saints signed earlier in that offseason last year, he was supposed to be the starter. He played really well in training camp. He performed really well. And even in the first game, he stood out. And then, of course, he got injured. He was out for the season. And the Saints, instead of them looking in free agency, they decide to throw the rookie out there and allow Sanker to sink or swim. No pun intended. But at the end of the day, he did a good job. And now the New Orleans Saints are giving him first team reps at the slot corner position. Now, when some people probably look at this, they'll probably think to themselves, it's a bad idea. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, and here's why. If you take a look at this graph right here, where you have Jonas Sanker, right? Jonas Sanker, he played 500 snaps at the University of Virginia in a slot corner position, which means that he has that level of experience. And it doesn't seem like, this would be a big learning curve for a guy like Jonas Sanker. It seems like he's comfortable in his position. It seems like he understands who he is and what he is as a player. And he has really good instincts. Like I think about Lante Taylor, who did a formidable job, at the slot corner for the New Orleans Saints over the last 3 seasons. So he got himself paid with the Tennessee Titans. Congratulations to him. But I think when it comes down to it, Alante Taylor gave you stability, but he didn't really give you that playmaker at the slot corner position that you would like. And Jonas Sanker can do that. Like, we've seen Jonas Sanker be around the football. And when he's around the football, he's making plays. I mean, this guy's first interception in the National Football League came off Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen, the reigning MVP of the league coming into last season. So, I mean, just imagine how that builds your confidence. When you're catching interceptions off Josh Allen, that makes you feel like you belong in the National Football League. And I think it did a lot for his confidence. Now, Jonas Sanker, I mean, he wasn't, all pro or Pro Bowl or anything like that. And yes, he's going to have to learn, he's going to have to develop, but that just comes with just being a young player in the National Football League. But this is a guy who's a sure tackler. I feel like if he gets around the football, he's going to be able to come away with it. He has really good, ball skills, a little bit of a ball hawk. And, I just think that you would really have someone that understands the assignment, having those type of reps at the collegiate level. And you look at some of the reports or listen to some of the reports, you'll see that Jonas Sanker was taking first team reps in OTAs. And if history has shown us anything with Kellen Moore, the way that he likes to align those players, I'm just thinking about last year at OTAs, you had Calvin Banks at the left tackle position when Tally Fuaga played left tackle the year before. Then you move Tally to the right side. Then you had Trevor Penning at left guard. And basically the way that the offensive line was set up at OTAs was the way that they actually played throughout the season. So I think that's an indicator of what the New Orleans Saints want from Jonas Sanker. I mean, they want him to work out. And this is a great opportunity for not only Jonas Sanker, but also these young players like the TJ Halls out there that's late round pick out of Iowa, Lorenzo Styles, right? I mean, more of a special teams guy, but we'll get opportunities in the slot. And these guys can be able to maybe be a part of that rotation. We know that when it comes to the secondary, you got to have some depth because guys have a tendency of getting hurt. And if you are very top heavy at the cornerback position, I mean, I think every team will want to be top heavy. You want that shutdown corner, but you don't want it to be such a huge drop off from number one to number two. So from the looks of it, the Saints would like Jonas Sanker to be the slot corner. Then you have Quincy Riley on one side along with Kool-Aid McKinstry as your number one or number two, where Kool-Aid is the one, Quincy Riley is the two. Then you have your guys at safety, Julian Blackman, the free safety, and then you have Justin Reed at strong. So it seems like that's what the New Orleans Saints are trying to do. And if Jonas Sanker can answer the call and be the answer to the question of slot corner, then the sky's the limit for him. And I think that Jonas Sanker can be a really good player for the Saints and be one of those fan favorites. I mean, he is a guy that made the best out of his opportunities, and that's all you can ask for. And the lights didn't seem too bright for him. The stage didn't seem too big for him. And when you have a young player like that, I just think that you have something. So I want to see what Jonas Sanker can do in the slot. I'm pretty sure other guys are going to get opportunities as the weeks go by and as we get closer to training camp. But this seems like this is Jonas Sanker's job to lose. We'll see how that goes. But I want to say thank you so much for checking out the Sleeper Saints podcast. Once again, my name is TJ Jones, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode and you hit the like button and you subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on X at TJAYJones8. And once again, this is the Sleeper Saints podcast where we focus on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?